We begin with the race for Wisconsin governor. Current Governor Scott Walker is seeking his third term in office. I recently sat down with the governor to talk about the race. When you look back at the last 8 years, what do you see as your greatest achievement? What are you most proud of in your time as governor?
Well, there's no doubt about it. The big reforms that we did.
Those reforms were also ended up being very divisive, very controversial, a lot of protests that you remember well, I'm sure. We're seeing a lot of divisiveness on the national level as well. What to you right now why does it make sense for you to continue as Wisconsin's governor in the political climate we find ourselves in today?
Well, I think people are smart in this state, whether they vote for me or not. I think people are very engaged. I think they're very involved. They realize this race is not about who the president is and whether you like or dislike President Trump. This is really about who's going to be governor over the next 4 years. That
was Governor Scott Walker. His major challenger in the race is Democrat Tony Evers. Evers is currently the state superintendent of public instruction. The polls show the race is a dead heat. I'd like you to assess the last 8 years in Wisconsin under Governor Walker, specifically as it related to your time as superintendent.
Yeah, I'll start out with something that it's sometimes hard to talk about, but you know, he decided early on after he became governor to talk about dividing and conquering.
By all accounts, this is coming down to be a close election. It seems like a lot of races in Wisconsin. What do you think this race ultimately comes down to? What's the point on which this election will be decided?
It'll be around, I'm going to use two things, but education for sure. But also, people of Wisconsin get it that I'm not highly partisan. It frustrates people because they think, well, is he liberal or is he moderate? I'm a pragmatist.
We turn our attention now to the United States Senate race here in Wisconsin. Democrat Tammy Baldwin is trying to secure a second term. I caught up with Senator Baldwin at a diner in Wausau to talk about the campaign. Why did you decide you wanted to run for another term?
You know, there are so many challenges and frankly opportunities that Wisconsinites have been talking to me about.
When it comes down to it, when voters head into the booth in November, why do you want them to cast their ballot for you instead of your opponent?
Well, I'm working for them.
Senator Baldwin's main challenger is Republican V Mir. She's currently a state senator from the southeastern part of the state. We met at the Republican Party headquarters in Alloway to talk about the race. Why did you decide that this was the best time for you to run for U.S. Senate?
Well, I got into politics out of circumstance, not ambition.
When you look at this race with Senator Tammy Baldwin, what to you does it come down to? How would you characterize this election?
Well, I think we need to look at who is it that you want to go to Washington, who is actually going to stand up for the middle class.
We begin with the incumbent Republican Congressman Glenn Grothman. Thanks for being here, Congressman.
Glad to be on the show.
How do you describe your campaign style?
Well, I get out and about a lot.
Why do you want people to vote for you, and what do you think this race will ultimately come down to?
Well, I think if you're concerned about immigration, and you know, don't want to continue sanctuary cities and that sort of thing. If you're concerned about our welfare state and feel it's contributing to the moral problems in America, if you're concerned about the amount of government debt, and I think I've always been very frugal when it comes to government spending, and if you want somebody who's accessible as any politician is in the country, I'm sure nobody gets around as much as I do, I think you'd vote for me.
I'm joined now by Dan Cole. He's the Democratic Party candidate for the 6th Congressional District. Thanks for coming in.
It's great to be with you here today, Robert. Thanks for having me on.
When you look at the race that you're in right now against Congressman Glenn Grothman, how would you characterize it? How does it kind of match up to you?
Glenn Grothman, he said a number of months ago that this is the political fight of his life. So I think this is a race that is very much in play.
Why should people vote for you in November?
People should vote for me because we really, now more than ever, we need new leaders in Washington.
In a special Beyond the Podium edition of the show, we're specifically looking at the 8th Congressional District race. I'm joined now by current Congressman, Republican Mike Gallagher. Thanks for coming in.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
How would you characterize this race?
Well, so far, it's been, I think it's what we've seen across the country. It's been pretty negative. I've tried not to respond to any of the attacks because I think that just doesn't get us anywhere.
I'd like to talk about health care for a little bit because I know that's an issue that's always on people's radar. Congress tried to do something about it. Explain kind of your thoughts on what has happened so far and where you'd like to see things go.
So I actually think both parties are missing the mark right now and where we need to go with our health care system.
In a special Beyond the Podium edition of the show, we're looking at the 8th Congressional District, which covers several counties in northeast Wisconsin. Voters will head to the polls on November 6th to decide who will be the next representative, incumbent Mike Gallagher, who's a Republican, or his Democratic challenger, Bo Lee-Joyce, who joins me now to begin the show. So thanks for coming in to talk with us.
Yeah, thank you so much for this opportunity.
I guess first, just tell us why you decided to get into this race. Why are you running for Congress?
Well, first and foremost, I'm a father.
When you look at the race itself, what do you think distinguishes you from your opponent most?
When it comes to healthcare, it is night and day.
Today we're focusing on the race to become Wisconsin's top cop. We begin simply because of scheduling with Josh Call. Thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me.
What are your thoughts and expectations moving into the election?
I think voters are really engaged. There seems to be a lot of enthusiasm as we've been traveling around the state among people about getting involved in the process.
How have you found it engaging voters and just really breaking through and getting attention, given the fact that this is a very busy political year? It's the big midterm elections, there's a governor's race. Have people been paying attention to this race?
I think they have. There are a lot of really important issues at stake.
I'm joined now by Wisconsin Attorney General Brad Schimel. Schimel is running for re-election as a Republican this November. Thanks for coming in to chat.
It's my pleasure, thank you.
I guess just the first big question is, tell us about why you decided to run for re-election as Attorney General.
Well, we've done a lot of great work at the Department of Justice.
When you look ahead to November, there's some people who've said, oh, this is going to be a blue wave. It's going to be a big Democratic year. What do you see from the campaign, and what is your gut telling you?
I'm putting over 2,000 miles a week on my car, traveling all around this state, meeting with citizens. What I know is you have to work hard. In Wisconsin, nobody's getting a pass. There's no blue wave. There's no red tide. This is hard work.
We hope you learned a thing or two about the candidates. Now remember, do some research on your own, check out our website, and make sure you head out and vote on Tuesday. We'll see you next time.